Hello and welcome to another episode of Unite on Purpose, LB Presents. And today I am going to be talking to the wonderful Elizabeth Marsh. But before I call her in, I wanted to talk about the Unite on Purpose series and talk about how we are all joining together, purpose-led, to create the quiet revolution. What we're looking to do is to get everyone to unite so that they can learn together to grow and trade with each other, yes, to impact change in the world. And it's always been our belief that we could shift the world into a new era through the eyes of brands and create the face of modern the face of modern business and the face of the modern world. And so we decided to launch a campaign, which is actually launching on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, where all the businesses are going to come together and unite on purpose with each one of their purposes. And so Elizabeth Marsh is one of my very, very inspiring stories, because Elizabeth creates absolutely beautiful spaces and uses flowers and all different beautiful sustainable products to be able to create these beautiful spaces. And Elizabeth came into my business school called Bob about 2 years ago now, I think it was. And she hugely inspired me with her story and what she does for creating spaces. And I have to say, she's one of those people that you often want in your back pocket to design your house for you or your office. And so during the pandemic, Elizabeth had come on the journey with us when we were running our webinar series, and she inspired me so much with what she did through the pandemic that we actually turned her into one of our Bob heroes. So Elizabeth, thank you, or Liz, thank you for joining us today. And I had to get you on to the Unite on Purpose interview because, like I said, you inspired me so much, not only in the school, but also going through the pandemic. So could you tell people what it is you do and what you've been doing also over the pandemic?
Yeah, hi, Lindsay. Really nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So we're a floral design company, and the business has been going since the 90s actually, but I've really been building it up as a business since 2009. And I've always just had sort of natural creativity that just really worked for my clients. And then I started really sort of looking at what it is I actually do. And of course, at Bob's School, really looked at that much closer. And that's where we came up with the idea of creating magical spaces and leaving people feeling like they matter. And I got that idea because I realized that the way I work with people, the way I work with corporates, I've always seen myself as an outsider in the corporate world. And yet that was where I was earning a living. And I remember, going way back, it was one of the tube strikes and everyone was walking to work. And I was walking to work and I was going round Hyde Park Corner. And it was just like, it was really weird because it was a walking version of being on a tube. So everyone was walking, not a single voice could be heard. But all I could hear was the stamping feet on the pavement. So it just felt like this army of ghosts going into the metropolis to sort of do their work. So I then sort of came up with the idea that actually what I do with flowers is, people go through this process of getting to work and they arrive there and they're just another number in the number cruncher. And then I put a vase of flowers on the reception desk, which with a bit of creativity, a bit of color, a bit of spontaneity, actually then kind of like almost injects some, it's like a virus injecting them, but with life, with a sense of who they are, and kind of reconnects themselves with the human inside them. And so that was the beginning of my sort of, my journey to explore, well, what is it I really do? What is my real purpose? And so now we work in a whole variety of different ways, using cut flowers, plants, all sorts of different schemes for reception areas, event work. We do big installations, bouquet deliveries. we work with our, we kind of specialize in not specializing. So if a customer wants to do something using natural media, then we kind of help them to do that and to really express their values through the floral decor. And that's kind of, originally that was the key part of my message, was we help you to express who you are through flowers.
So when you came in the school and you told me about, creating these magical spaces, and then you started to talk to me about, you walk into these buildings and you create these different installations, and you hugely inspired me around, what type of spaces. You actually transported me into the building, I have to say. Would you talk to me about some of the installations that you kind of vision out for people, and what that kind of means for you and how you come out with that?
Well, the first one I ever did was actually for Harvey Nichols. I was one of the last independent artists to design and install their window displays. So I worked with Mary Portas.
I love Harvey Nichols windows.
Yeah, well, they used to be even more amazing, because like now they kind of have their in-house sort of design team, but at the time they used to bring in literally just bring in artists and get them to just do whatever they wanted in the windows. And so I created this series of crazy sculptures for their Sloane Street windows. And then I made this lime green log to run down the whole of the Knightsbridge windows with 48 little trees that I actually made myself using sea lavender, sprayed the whole thing lime green. I made it down at Pinewood. It was really fun. And that was their New Year's installation, sort of going back, way back when. And since then, I mean, we've done loads of things. We wrapped a tree in satin ribbon and studded it with pearls and had clouds of gyps sort of floating up through the branches for a sort of Kardashian-style sort of wedding statement piece. And for La Perla, we actually did their Chelsea and Bloom exhibit. So it was the theme was the Brazilian Olympics, the Carnivale, and they had a bird of paradise as one of the designs on some of their outfits. So I used the bird of paradise as the connecting point between their brand and the theme of the competition. And we had a flock of them taking off from willow trees that were wrapped in satin ribbon again. And then we had a coulee of burgundy chrysanthemum heads trickling down into a puddle on the pavement. Wow. So we got second prize for that, which was a bit annoying because like the judge was like, "Oh, there's no difference between you and the first prize, by the way." And I was like, "Well, in that case, why didn't you give me first prize?" But not that I'm jaded or anything. But and then more recently, we created a tunnel of ribbons. So we had ribbon just sort of hanging midair in this sort of corridor, and then as people walked along, it was kind of above their heads and then came down at the side. So they literally felt like they were walking through a tunnel, but it wasn't solid. And then we did a piece for the Friends of the Earth, which was particularly lovely because we did a tunnel of foliage. And so they did it was an event for their stakeholders and just talking about their progress, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And they wanted to theme it. So they said the theme is from urban to natural. So they wanted this tunnel to start off quite sort of trim and sort of nice and just become increasingly wild as you went down the tunnel. And we had this, a kind of a particular challenge with this was that we had 2 hours from literally getting out of the van to the first guest arriving for their party. So you can imagine the challenge.
That's not very long at all.
40 feet long, exactly.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was it then turned into a bit of kind of performance art because the staff all sort of gathered round to watch us make this thing. And then what we didn't realize is they were kind of laying bets on whether we'd actually finish it or not because they didn't think we could do it in the time. So it became like a kind of challenge Annika.
And did you finish it?
Do you know what? So what was funny was some of the guests arrived. So I started having a real go at my team. I was getting really strung out. I was like, "Guys, you're not working hard enough. You've got to go faster." And then we cleared the final bit of vegetation. We were just walking out. And I looked at my watch because I hadn't had time to check the time. And it was like, so we went to finish at 7. It was 2 minutes past 7. And I realized it wasn't us that was late. The guests had all arrived 20 minutes early.
Oh,
So I just said to them, well, you got double your money. You got some performance theatre there as a sort of add-in to the decorations. But what was really lovely was that the girl that organised it got a promotion because of it, because
oh,
the CEO was so impressed with it and the way it brought their whole cause to life that she
oh.
actually gave her a permanent role as a result. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you can imagine for a girl who has spent 19 years in the world of fashion and retail, building consumer brands, and then you walk into my school with all these incredible stories of doing windows and visual art and all around magical spaces. I was absolutely, you know, in awe of everything that you were doing and absolutely loved it and all the whole magical side. And then obviously the pandemic hit, as we know. And so I'd always had a special relationship with what you did because you'd come in the school. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously we reached out to the Bob business community and put the webinar on. And you joined us on many of the webinars, and you've also joined us on the L&D program, and you're going to be campaigning with us on Thursday. But what I have to say is not only are you incredibly talented with what you do, the huge integrity that you have around your business and what you did through the pandemic was really admirable. And I really want you to share the story with the viewers so that you can say what you did through the pandemic, that we made you a Bob hero because we wanted to acknowledge what you'd done.
So it was an interesting time because, as you know, our sort of business was, you know, we were just sort of nudging $750,000 turnover, well, about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and then got stuck, as I now know all businesses do.
Yeah.
And so I spent the last 2 years really overhauling the systems, the structures. We put in new technical systems, we tweaked the team, we brought in new team members, we invested massively. And then March, like the week of lockdown, we were like ready to go. I had customers lined up waiting to work with me. They were like coming to me saying, we want to work with you. We want to work with you. And I was like, and you know, having been through Bob's school, of course, I've been doing all the purpose-led, creating magical spaces, and people just loved the message. So there they all were lined up waiting to work with me. There was my team lined up waiting to rock.
Yeah.
And the lockdown happened, and I was just like, "You are joking!" I think I literally went out and got drunk every night for a week, just to kind of like, ah! I couldn't believe it. But so we sort of stopped and thought, okay, it's happened. But you know, I've always sort of had a sort of mentality that I won't just sort of lie down and die. So I said, okay, let's assume we're going to lose half our business. So we'll just cut everyone's hours down to half. And then the government said that they were going to bring in the furlough scheme. And then two of our clients, our two biggest clients, they contacted us and said, we're planning to support you. So one of them has actually paid us in full since March, and our contract should have ended with them in August, and they've just extended it for another year, even though they don't know what their future is. I mean, we've worked with them for about 3 years. We've had a really good relationship with them, but it's the QE2 Centre, and they're potentially going to be taken over by the House of Lords. So they said, we can't commit beyond August. And then they just said, look, you know, the decision about what's going to happen to us has been pushed back to January. So yeah, let's keep going for another year. And we can't do the installations that we were doing, but we can certainly do something else. I said, okay, well, let's switch to planting, and you know, let's create some sort of post-COVID planting structures to help sort of divide up the space and bring that sort of touch of humanity in. They really love the idea. So we've actually sort of had a meeting. I mean, the thing is, you know, what they're paying us, it's going to be looking like a jungle by the time we finish, because that's quite a lot of plants. But what we are going to do is really explore sort of creating abundant planting structures with them. The other thing that happened was another customer who we haven't done anything for since March. They said, we're going to support you. We won't pay for the flowers, but we'll pay for your labour and your overheads. So between the two of them, they've kept us going. And And so when I found that out and I realized that I wasn't going to lose the business, I just thought, well, I've got to pay this forwards. It's funny that you've kind of been using that expression, because that's exactly
what every day, every webinar, pay it forward, pay it forward.
And so I said, I sat down with the team and we said, well, how can we pay this forwards? What can we do? And so we were thinking about, so I thought, okay, well, our customer has supported us, which means we're still in the water. So what about the rest of the supply chain? So I was looking back down the supply chain to our wholesalers, the growers. I was like, well, it's all very well us surviving, but who's going to support them? Because if we don't support them, there'll be no flowers to buy when we come out of this. So we came up with an idea that we would ask our contacts and our networks to buy a posy for £20, because we thought, with all these people being furloughed, like £20 is not a huge amount, and actually people can probably afford that. Of that, we'll spend £5 getting the flowers to the person. We were posting them out nationwide. And the remaining £15 we'll give to charity. And the National Emergencies Trust had just set up their coronavirus appeal. So we contacted them, had a great conversation with their CEO, and we talked to the various people on the board of directors. And they were really excited that we wanted to work with them. And so we rolled out a sort of partnership with them. And so we posted on all our sort of media and everything. So people would buy a posy to give to an NHS worker so that they knew that they hadn't been forgotten. And if they didn't know one personally, we had a relationship with St George's Hospital in Tooting. So at one point I was going down there sort of twice a week with these sort of bagfuls of posies to give out to various team members, just so that they knew they hadn't been forgotten. They kind of got the gratification of knowing that they weren't on their own. The charity got the money to help with their PPE equipment and whatever local communities needed. They were then handing it out to the local communities. The growers and the wholesalers, they got to, it wasn't a huge amount, but we were spending some money on flowers. And people at home who were increasingly frustrated that they were just stuck at home and weren't able to do anything to contribute, they were able to, to do something to make a difference and to actually be active rather than just passive. And I think what was really heartwarming was, because all the team were furloughed, so I was doing the deliveries myself.
Oh, did you get to meet then the NHS workers and the people that you were delivering? That must have been incredible for you. Did you hear stories?
The most heartrending one was I went to the theatre at Kingston Hospital. Yeah. And I walked into reception. There were about 8 people in reception. I just said, oh, this is for, whoever it was. And the nurse said, no. She said, come with me. So I was just like, oh, okay. So I went with her, followed her through. And there was this woman in this tiny little cubbyhole of an office. It looked more the size of a sort of a cleaning cupboard than an office. She was sitting there at her computer and she said, oh, we've got someone here for you. So I handed her as distantly as I could the little posy. And she just kind of looked down at it and she didn't really look up. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, well, you can't win them all, Hopefully she'll appreciate the thought. And the other nurse turned around to me and she said, quite good timing today, actually. She said, it's been a really tough day. And even now, when I talk about it, I just choke because I suddenly realized what a difference we were making. This woman was so upset that she couldn't even say thank you. It was extraordinary. Yeah, it was very powerful. So, yeah, I was really happy to do it.
Oh, and that will go with you for the rest of your life. Being able to do that, like that moment in time where I get that you go and create these incredible magical spaces, but you created incredible magical spaces for people and spaces in time. And maybe when we were sat in the business school and we thought about creating magical spaces, we didn't have that in mind, that actually the reality is that you've transitioned that through the pandemic through to actually people in huge need and created these beautiful moments for them. It's absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah.
so, do you know how many people did you manage to deliver to? Do you know how many NH? I mean, there must have been so many.
Yeah, it was probably around, I don't know, sort of 70 or 80, something like that, maybe more. I'm not sure, because it went on for a while, but in that initial period, it was around sort of 70 odd, I think. Yeah. And
Wow.
all over, I mean, there was one day where I must admit, yeah, I kind of pushed myself a bit too far, I think. And I was doing these deliveries all around the place, because the other thing, of course, that happened was that our customers started to hear about us doing this. And so two things happened. One, they really loved it. I mean, everyone I mentioned this campaign to absolutely fell in love with it. And so they all got really inspired. And then they realized that we had flowers and we were still working. So they were like, oh, great, can you send flowers? So our bouquet orders trebled in that month.
Oh,
Really extraordinary. And so I'm driving all over the place doing these deliveries. There was one day, it was that really hot period. And
yeah.
I went out to almost the Essex border, and then went up to sort of North London, down to Camberwell, Peckham. I mean, you name it, I was all over the place that day.
Wow.
Because I knew I had so many deliveries to do, I didn't drink anything, because I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to do a pit stop, right? So best not to drink or eat anything. And that way I can just kind of get it all done. So of course, got to the end of the day and I was absolutely shattered.
Oh.
So I ended up
or anywhere to stop, was there? So you couldn't really go
exactly.
anywhere.
Yeah. So I got to the King's Hospital in Denmark Hill, and I must admit there was a Cafe Nero there. And I was just like, I've just got to stop and have a coffee.
Oh.
And then what was kind of crazy was that because of the work that they're doing, none of the NHS staff could actually social distance. So I walked past this dining room, and there must have been 50 people in there, all just eating, drinking, as if there was no pandemic. And I was just like, wow, yeah. It was really a very strange thing. And one of the reasons we had a connection with St. George's is because we knew one of the nurses there. And she said all the PPE was kept for people like in theatre or in critical moments. She said, and the thing is, once you've worn it once, then you have to take it off and discard it. So they kept running out. So unless you were front line, as they called it, you didn't get to have any of the PPE. So then they just kind of got used to the risk, I think. So it was kind of a very, very weird environment, you know, kind of very much two worlds. Yeah.
And what did this do for your business? Because didn't you get on Lorraine or one of the didn't you start getting quite a lot of press coverage around what you were doing? I saw you in some magazines or newspapers, or how did that what happened for you with the business?
So when we first launched it, we actually launched it. And in fact, this is what sparked the idea of doing it. There was a company called Buzz Bikes, and they were giving away free bikes to, I mean, not giving them away, but renting them for free to NHS workers, so they could get to work safely and at whatever time of day. And so we said that we would support them, and they were struggling to get the bikes out. So I said, look, we've got a Luton sitting there not doing very much. Why don't you borrow it? So initially we lent them a driver, and then they just took the van themselves and did their deliveries that way. So they managed to get sort of a month's worth of bikes out in 10 days or something. And so for the first week, we said, we'll do little posies for you to deliver with the bikes. And that's what sort of sparked the idea of creating these Stay Positive posies. And anyway, so then we did a joint sort of social media campaign around it. And we got into Time Out, God, I can't remember, Time Out, the Mayfair Times. There were 3 different publications that took it on. And then later, Mary Claire picked it up, and then they ran with it as well. So yeah, we got some nice exposure from it, which was really lovely. And I think also what was interesting was the other businesses that I talked to that were inspired by what we'd done. And there was one company in particular, and I remember talking to the owner, and she was like, I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. My business is gone. And she said, what are you doing? And I said, well, this is what we're doing. And she went, oh my God, oh, that's amazing. And then it just kind of set her back on track. And she went off and started building her network and sort of looking at different ways to sort of pay it forward. So yeah, it was really nice.
So Liz, I'm going to ask you my critical question, which is what I always ask everyone. What are you known for? What is your statement?
Well, I was listening to your webinar this morning, so I've now got 3. I've got my family one, I've got my business one, and my world one.
Okay, go on then.
One that everyone knows is creating magical spaces and leaving people feeling like they matter. But I've since then come up with a world one, which is healing the relationship between man and nature. And,
I love that. Say that again.
Healing the relationship between man and nature.
Oh, that's stunning.
I know. It's cool.
Wait there a minute, Liz. Wait. Just wait. One moment. Wait a moment. Right, Liz. I am giving you your Unite on Purpose bag. I'm passing it through. Hang on.
Thank you.
Got it? Right. Got it. Right. In that bag are the keys to the whole of the UK. And Boris is having the day off. And with that statement that you just made, that what you're known for, the world one, which is beautiful, I would like to know what you would like to do with those keys for the day to unite everyone on purpose. You've got the whole day.
What I would like to do, actually, and which I might actually do, is create a ribbon of vegetation, initially to cross London, but eventually across the world, to unite the world with a ribbon of vegetation, and specifically so that animals can cross from one side of the country to the other without having to cross a main road.
Oh my gosh! Of all the things that I thought you were going to say, never in my wildest dreams did I think that you were going to say that. That is absolutely incredible. I think that all my other guests are going to really struggle to be able to match that one.
What's really cool is I've been talking to the CEO of the National Park City organisation, because London was declared a national park city last year, the first of 12 to be rolled out by 2025.
Yeah.
And he's really interested to help with that. And I've had some great talks with Elliot Wood, and they're also interested in helping with that.
Our engineers, the Engineering a Better Society.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. So Lisa Drake and Andrew Downs and I have had some really great conversations around it. So it might actually happen.
Oh, wow. Well, then please let us be part of that and be able to bring our earth of some description into that and be able to support whatever is needed. And on Thursday, we have the great pleasure of all coming together to unite on purpose. And what are you going to be doing on your day on Thursday to unite on purpose? What are you going out with, and what are you doing with the Unite on Purpose campaign? Have you thought about how your day is going to roll out?
To be honest, I haven't quite got that far. I kind of got as far as today. Day by day basis.
I've seen your video, which is absolutely brilliant. So just for the viewers, so you know, on Thursday, we've all created a video. And if you would like to join us on Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's 144 businesses and their employees that are all going to come together and unite on purpose. And everybody is putting their purpose in this bag. Everybody's been sent a bag, and inside the bag, they're going to put their purpose. Would you like to share with us what did you put inside the bag? Because I've seen your beautiful video.
I put a little plant. I can show it to you, actually. I got it here. Hang on.
Great.
I'm not sure it's cool to leave an interview halfway through, but there it is. That's what I put in the bag.
And have you named the plant that's going to be your purpose? Does the plant have a name?
Benjamin.
Benjamin, good name. Okay, well, I'll look forward to seeing Benjamin maybe on Thursday for the Unite on Purpose campaign. And I would like to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. It is 30 minutes and it goes so fast for me because I get so fascinated listening to the stories. And I always learn so much when I'm listening to the stories, the things that I didn't actually know. And so I have to say it's been a huge pleasure of you coming on. And I am very much looking forward to you campaigning with us on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock and bringing Benjamin onto the call
I will.
so that we can meet Benjamin. Thank you, Liz. And everybody, thank you for joining this show. It's been wonderful to have you. Yes, we're at the end of another episode. If you would like to join us on Bob Earth on Thursday, then do come along. I will be spinning around the globe, either on the Bob Earth Facebook group. It's a closed group. All you need to do is join the group and say you met on the LB Presents Unite on Purpose program, and we will, of course, let you in. And or if you would like to come and campaign with us, then you may have seen, join the quiet revolution, because we are here to build brands, to shift industries and make a positive change in the world. See you on Thursday.